but we were just like, "Why are you still in the house?" And then I realized that this may be more of a feminist movie
Talking about Poltergeist?
than Poltergeist, more of a feminist movie than Alien. I'm going to put it out in the world.
Okay.
I was
Um,
mad from a feminist perspective most of the film.
okay.
Most of the
Okay.
film. I don't think they were trying to not it was being too overt for it not to be a, because it's Toby Hooper, Texas Chainsaw guy that did this, and also Eel Spielberg, and there's a big old man, wank off over there over that whole thing. But the I think it's purposeful. I don't think they did, but I will tell you how mad I am and why, because I'm pissed.
I am joined again by Leah Robinson, Reverend Dr. Leah Robinson. We've talked about a few classics. We're going to knock off another classic today, Leah. This is Poltergeist, 1982, a film I had not seen and you highly recommended for me. So thank you.
I did. I did. I said it's one that I think it holds up because I always say the older films, if they don't do too much of the techie stuff, I
Right.
think tech really ages films. Of course it does. We all know that.
Absolutely.
And I think they did it well here when they didn't use too much tech.
And I'm really excited for this one because, like I said, you recommended this one, and it was one that I'm sad to say I did not have on my radar as I've been, over the last year or two, I've been kind of getting more and more submerged into the horror subgenre for conversations like this. I didn't know how resonant Poltergeist would be. And there was this theme that kept coming up, and it's the theme I really wanted to hit on. It was kind of the dark side of the American dream, the
Mhm.
skeletons that lay underneath this perfect suburbia, and maybe what little things we can draw out of that. I just, before I give our little breakdown of, when it was released, who directed it, and who starred in it, a little bit of a plot summary, I want to know how you were introduced to Poltergeist so we can kind of set the hook on how you have related with this story.
Yeah, so Ryan asked me, I think, some of my favorite films, and of course I had all these subgenres. I was like, well, this is for horror and this is for, sci-fi and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But Poltergeist was one that I was, again, you all know that I grew up Southern Baptist, and I was not allowed to watch this kind of sure couldn't. So this is one of those that I like caught on a bunny ear somewhere, and like I realized watching it back, I think I've probably seen it when I was in high school, then probably in college, but probably was not 100% in the right mind for various reasons. And then probably this is the third time. So this time I get the jokes though, because
Right.
it's quite a funny movie. Like there's funny bits to it that I think I just didn't get. But it was certainly my introduction was like I was, how if you lived where I lived, which was very rural, you had the 3 channels,
Yeah.
and then you had, whatever you could pick up, you know, the Skinamax, HBO, whatever you could pick up on the bunny ears, and so I managed to pick up Poltergeist, and I remember watching it, and it was very green. I probably looked like, what is her
Carol
name?
Ann.
Carol Ann in the thing watching it, probably what it looked like to me as I was watching it from that too, but, and I just remember sitting there and being it's something about when she says, "They're here," which is
Oh,
so iconic, but, like,
yes.
I didn't know it was iconic. I just at the time, I just was really scared.
Right.
And those of
I
you who watched the shows before or listen to the shows know that ghosts get me. Like, if you wanna get me like a hidden ghost or a ghost like Blair Witch, get a person in a corner and you don't know why, or just people hiding in the Babadook, like, I don't like him coming from the ceiling, like, I just people just hiding in places. Like, the fact that it's in the closet, you can't see my
oh,
closet right now, but it is open because it's always open,
it must be open.
because I am a 43-year-old woman who must have her closet open because who knows what's in the closet? So that's the kind of stuff that gets me. So
I
this was a great intro into that world, really.
we're gonna get into more of like there's several things you just said there, like just triggered a memory I had of watching the movie for the first time and things that actually scare me. But I'm gonna set that aside for just a moment to just
And
break
I
for those of you maybe this is your first time checking out one of our conversations. Stuart is Leah's
oh, it's
husband.
my husband.
He's phenomenal. And
He
this
is
was
too.
also his first time watching Poltergeist. So
It
Leah
was.
introduced both of us to this movie, and
Yeah.
I'm very grateful. This movie has a lot of different connections to other horror suspense thrillers of the time. It came out June 4th of 1982 here in the States. It was directed by Toby Hooper, who is famously the director of the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that had come out almost a decade prior to this. Uh,
As a seven
yeah,
sleep.
I believe it was, 1974, if my
Hmm.
memory is, serving me well. It's also produced famously by Steven Spielberg, who directed one of the most terrifying movies of all time, Jaws.
Who, by the way, wrote this. We did a quick we kept seeing names pop up,
Right.
and she was like, "Oh my gosh, do you realize that that's the lady that's head of Lucasfilms now?" Kath it's like Kath.
Kathleen Kennedy was a part of this movie as well.
Oh, yeah. She's like an
Insane.
exec producer on it too. So it just shows you how, like, intertwined like, she wouldn't be yet, but she
Right.
is now, and so he was like, "Oh my god, she's" and I was like, "Well, that kid's whole room is decked out in Star Wars stuff." It's like
It
OTT Star Wars.
unmistakable. Star Wars had clearly just come out and been a big cultural phenomenon when this movie was made. And Spielberg put his buddy George Lucas's stuff all over this movie.
Mhm.
Also, one other little note I noticed in the cast and credits was Jerry Goldsmith did the music for this, and
I don't know who that is, I don't think.
he did all the music for the original Alien movie.
Interesting. There's an alien
So,
poster too in the room.
and yes, so there's a few different things here, like where Poltergeist kind of draws in
They're
the
referencing for sure.
yeah, they're connecting the dots of the time. This movie stars Joe Beth Williams, Heather O'Rourke as Carol Ann, the famous "They're here" quote is from her. Zelda Rubinstein, who is a vibe. I just don't know if I've ever seen an actress kind
Is
of
she a
choose.
psychic?
Yeah, she chews
Yes.
scene in a way I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And Craig T. Nelson is also in this movie,
Yep.
and Leah has got quite the rant in the barrel for Mr. Nelson.
I grew up watching Coach with my dad, but he fared better on that than on this.
Old Craig's gonna get it. I'm gonna give us a short plot summary, and then we're gonna dig into this fantastic film and this theme of the dark side of the American dream and what that means for us. A Poltergeist, 1982. The Freelings are pursuing this suburban American dream, and it's completely shattered when their youngest daughter, Carol Ann, is abducted through their television set by a paranormal entity. Now, that is a crazy concept in and of itself, but it gets even crazier. Their perfect suburban kind of life is discovered to have actually been built on a literal graveyard that the development company that Craig T. Nelson's character works for had developed this entire town, this entire suburb on top of graves where they had removed the headstones but kept all the bodies conveniently underground. So they're trying to get their daughter back, and through the process of trying to get her back, they exhaust kind of all of their knowledge, all their resources. They're reaching out to different people. They discover more and more and more. The actual horror is why this is happening to them in the first place. And it's something that they didn't even really cause, but they're just unwitting recipients of it at the point of their abduction. So we get to unpack some of that throughout the movie. Leah, so Poltergeist is it's about many things, like all these different films we've talked about, we're going to talk about. They have several different themes, and because the one reason I wanted to talk to you about this facade was I just thought your work in practical theology might be really, really useful in this discussion. So Poltergeist rips back the layers on this that the development company builds these entire communities on top of these gravestones. And the question I want to kind of jump off from is how do we reconcile innocence in the freelings trying to chase their dream, but the dream they're trying to build towards is built on top of a land that's been desecrated, stolen, taken away. Like, I know that's a big kind of meaty bite to jump into first, but that's just where I want to jump off for now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that is well, I will start by saying I think humans as a the human race, they want things for cheap. They want things to not be expensive. And as my dad perpetually told me growing up, he was a businessman. He was like, "You can't get anything for like if it's cheap, if it seems like a deal, then it's fake." And I think
Someone's losing on that.
right, and someone I think that's important point to make is someone's losing. So like if I get like I got this sweater from a place in the UK called Primark and it's very known for being cheap. Someone in Asia probably made this sweater. I'm certain of it. And I got it for cheap because they made it for cheap. So it's one of those things that we are I think like I said as a human race we're perpetually using and abusing. And you see this with Karl Marx. You see this a lot with theologians as well, a lot of the liberation theologians who kind of bring it out and say like Karl Marx, tried to say to people and they damn him and they say, he's a communist and all of this other stuff and try to and it's really interesting that people choose to do that. We say people in quotation, but the people
Yeah.
above don't want to engage with that. People in power don't want to engage because he was saying like look, I'm not saying like religion is opiate to the people in a way that is like mean to you. It's mean to them.
Mm,
They are trying to make you think that all of the work that you are doing is fine because one day you'll go to heaven and it'll all be okay. But the thing is, all you're doing, I think of Gatsby. Christy, my
mm.
podcast partner, loves
Yeah.
Gatsby, and it's all this opulence. But then you see the people working behind the scenes. And so I think in all of this sort of media that we consume, let it be Bridgerton, let it be the history of the United States with slavery. I mean, all of these colleges I support and I love, they were all built on the backs of slavery and all of the stuff. And I think it's one of those things where we as a like I said, a global community have not figured out how to not use people in a certain way. But what we have gotten really good is ignoring that we do it. And I think
Yeah.
that's if you want to say a sin, I think that's the sort of theological rub there is that we've gotten very good at saying we'll pick out these things. I mean, I'm wearing this sweater and yet I'm putting on Instagram all this stuff about, the murder of that woman in Minnesota, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not comparing them. I'm not saying it's comparable, but we've gotten very good at being performative in our outrage.
Yeah, there's
Mm.
this, like, I think that I know you wanna talk about Craig T. Nelson's character, and I think this
Oh,
is actually a good, like, natural on-ramp to getting to talk to him. He is a higher up in the development company that has developed, is it Cuesta Verde? Cuesta Verde?
yeah, that's right.
They developed this whole valley, and he is in line to be, like, a partner in this development firm, and when he finds out that his company was complicit in this haunting that is affecting his family in a very personal, upfront, direct way, is I know it's probably easy to be like, dude, you helped build this thing, but he's also at a point of ignorance. He assumed they had done the right thing because he was told they did the right thing. So is our family innocent, complicit? I know it's not as easy as yes, good guys, bad guys, but you raise an interesting question of like, I'm wearing something that was probably made for cheap by people that did not, benefit from it. And I'm also upset about these other injustices other places.
Well, she makes a comment. The mom makes a comment at one stage where she says, "We worked so hard for this. Like this is what we
Yeah.
and I think it's when they're moving, which don't get me started on that either. But why are they just it's the Holiday Inn. It was the motel days of the Holiday Inn. Just go. You don't need them. You've got a credit. We've managed to get past what is it, the 60s, so you can get a credit card now. Just put it down. So anyway, that's a side quest. But I think the thing is I think they do know that they're shooting above their weight here. I think they get it because they seem to in the beginning be really sort of overly appreciative of the place to the point where I start to think you aren't like you don't know what's happening, but it's that ignoring thing. Like how did you get they feel like they don't belong in that house. Like they feel like they feel like that. Like
Yeah.
they're having imposter syndrome about being in the house. And so I think it's like if you feel that, you know, there's probably a reason for that, which is that you got a deal. Okay, so why did you get a deal? Sometimes you just do, but then sometimes you're banking off of, other people's hardships or other people's, in this case, graveyards.
Yeah.
And it's like he screams at that guy at the end, his boss, Nelson screams at his boss and says, like, you didn't move the bodies, but you moved the gravestones. So he knew because they take him to the hilltop. It's a very sort
They
of
show him
bib
everything.
they show him it was a very biblical thing. And he says, like, we do move them, we just move them down the road. And Craig Nelson had no issue. He didn't seem to have an issue with that. He was just like, okay. And then at the end, they're like, he doesn't even talk about the ethics of that they moved an entire graveyard, like, whether the bodies went or not. He's just
Mhm.
like, "Oh, that's cool as long as, the bodies are there." It's just the ethics of this person who's saying, "Well, as long as I can keep getting what I want, I'm able to push down stuff that maybe would normally I would find not agreeable."
Yeah.
And
We're
I he does that very
we're we're willing to there's this willingness, whether it is the knowing willingness of the developer or T. Nelson's character's kind of like half-informed willingness to keep the bodies buried as long as my personal cost remains low.
right,
So
and if he had taken him to the mountain that I keep saying the mountaintop because it is theological in my head.
yes.
He's taking him to the mountaintop and saying, if those hauntings had never existed, and he said, "Look, here's the deal, Craig T. Nelson. We actually didn't move the bodies. We just moved the headstones, but it's all cool, whatever." If they had never had any kind of poltergeist or the daughter wasn't missing or whatever, I question whether he would have even cared.
Hmm. Because again, he is quite successful at
Super
this whole
successful.
game. Well, the developer even says there's nobody in our whole company that sells the amount of plots and homes that you do. We pop into his job a few different times and we see him just being this massive grifter trying to get people to get him in these homes, and even like they have questions and he's like, hey, my family's doing great. We're like right up the street there. And it's like, oh my gosh, dude, like it's one of those moments in the movie where I'm like, you're so far in. I don't even think you would know how to get out unless something like a poltergeist was like, you know, get out of my freaking house.
They had to take the little girl, like, even with the chair, I was like, they're doing this like chair experiment.
Right. Yeah.
And
They
she's trying to
experiment with the
convince him,
spirits.
and you're sitting, like, convincing that there's spirits in the house, and I can even see how bored he is in this whole conversation. He's just like, "Cool, cool," and Carrie Ann or whatever comes in, and she's like, "Mom didn't make food for our dinner, and I'm
Or Pizza Hut.
hungry." And then she goes, "The chairs moving across the kitchen will get the
Like
Pizza Hut." The both
paranormal is happening.
right? Which is why I'm saying it's
Oh,
such a feminist thing. She just comes in, she's telling her dad, "Mom didn't make us dinner." And I'm like,
I'm, there's a ghost
"There's
moving
a
furniture.
ghost. What do you This is what I'm talking about." And even when there's a contractor that's doing a pool outside and the woman just comes into the
Yeah.
kitchen, he's just eating her food through a
Yeah.
window. And I'm like, "I'm going to marry a woman and burn all of you to the ground."
Be Mrs.
Yeah, and she just puts the thing, and she's very nice about it, I will say.
Yeah.
Also, oh my god, Ryan, when
Okay.
there is a point where okay, and I said, "Stuart," I couldn't
Stuart.
remember, but I said, "He is gonna drop that rope at the end." She goes in on this dangerous mission, of course she does, because Lord knows he ain't going. And he goes into this she goes to, like, retrieve her daughter, and she looks back at him. She's got one request, which I would argue is the only request she had the whole movie of this man, which was, "Please don't drop the rope."
Yeah.
I will let you all watch the clip of what he does.
Yeah.
It is almost immediate. He drops the rope. The first point of something being difficult, he drops the rope.
The gooey, like, Vaseline chunks of visceral, like, rope.
Yeah, but he did it. She had one request
No, I know.
in an hour and 2 hours of a movie.
The
120. 120. She had one request. Please don't drop the rope as I rescue our child from insane demon
I
or ghosty things.
inside the anus of hell,
The
I'm
anus
going
of
in.
hell. Could you not drop the rope?
That'd be awesome.
It'd be
Uh
real great.
So
Mm,
the corporate nature of this, like Craig
yeah,
T. Nelson is inside the system that's
yeah,
creating this American dream, this facade, this thing that Joe Beth Williams' character says, like, we worked so hard for this.
yeah,
There's this
yeah,
corporate machinery at work here that is paving over the past, quite literally. Why why does it seem like it gets easier and easier to do that in day-to-day life, but then also when someone says like, "Hey, by the way, we shouldn't forget this thing, or we should reconcile with this thing, or we should come to grips with this piece of our history, thing that we've done to other people, things that people have done to us," basically unpacking the terribleness of, history. Why has it become easy to both ignore that or justify it? I know that's a deeply complex question, but it feels like that happens so often, whether it's in the news, in our own personal lives. It's so prevalent. And I wonder why.
yeah. I mean, I go back to when I lived in Ireland. There's always an anecdote in here, but it is important because I dated for a long time this Irish guy, and he had we would have a yearly thing where we would go to the graveyard. It's a Day of the Dead. It's the same Day of the Dead situation. And we would go and we would drink and we would sit by the graves and we would remember and we would cry and it was hard and we had to wrestle with stuff. And but it was a great celebration. You'd eat food, but you'd talk about everyone in the graveyard because it was like,
Yeah.
and I think with all denominational this, I think Protestants, we want to forget. Like when people die, it hurts. So we don't want to remember. We don't want to deal with uncomfortable things. And so this is my theology coming out. But I think with humans, especially, I'm going to contextualize it in the US, is that we live in a culture that's very selfish. Like it is a very selfish, it's not a communal culture. It is a very as you said, the
Individualized.
American dream. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
individualized. And so if it means that like one person gets to have the house of their dreams, but they have to pave over an entire graveyard to do that, well, those people are dead, and that doesn't benefit that person
Yeah.
that's alive. So we'll just go ahead and do it. And I think you can use that as a metaphor too, but we've done that with, I mean, I teach US religion and American history as a class to undergrads. And we start at the beginning and we say, the native peoples, like, they thought it was the promised land, these pilgrims. And why did they think it was the promised land? Well, because they said God told them it was. And they got there and these native people were already there. And they were like, well, you know, we'll just kill you.
Well, yeah, because and again, if I'm paraphrasing out of pocket here, let me know. But
Yeah.
it's the idea of like we are so sold on our version of this dream, this divine right to take
Yeah.
this place, that you being here is kind of inconvenient for us. So
Well, and they
we
theologize it. The
right.
manifest destiny is all about like it's theology. They said, God, you just are not a
Yeah.
part of God's plan.
Yeah, like you being here is a stepping stone to us being here. So we are going to remove stepping stones, but like in Poltergeist, we're going to leave the bodies. Remove the stepping stones, leave the bodies.
Well, he
Uh,
even says it one days, he's like, "At least it's not a native," or he says, "a tribal graveyard," or something
yeah, at least
like
it's
that.
not a tribal burial ground. It's like, okay, that I mean, that's other movies explore that concept to a,
Why do you
a
think they're so
trope
pissed
like
in those
fashion.
movies?
But
Why do
yeah,
you think
exactly. It's like,
why are they so mad? Like,
okay, this is
yeah,
this
so
is
so, I mean, I think
insane.
they theologize it. I think that was the beginning of our country, and then we had slavery as well, after that, and it's like we perpetually we built this country, and people can change it if they want, if that's but they're changed in terms of history books and monuments and the Smithsonian. I was seeing they're changing stuff. They're doing it because it makes them feel uncomfortable with the reality of this country, and I
It
think
still happened. Like,
yeah, it still happened.
you can move all the headstones you want.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like when they, did you ever see what is that series? It was one of those, like, dystopian future series. I can't remember the name of
Oh
it.
gosh.
I know.
Not one of my fortes, actually.
No, it's fine, but they get rid of all the same sort of stuff happens, but they get
Yeah.
rid of all the professors, essentially, and the
Hmm.
teachers, not just professors, the teachers that are doing, like, K through 12, and they take away all the books because they don't want them to know the history because they want people to see this place is perfect that they've created. And the teachers memorize the history books, and they try to pass it on, but they actually memorize it because 'cause they're burning the books. So
Right.
they actually do it, and so they meet people and they try to pass, but they have to live on the outskirts and, like, way out in nowhere
Is
land.
this The Giver by chance?
Well, the thing is, it's the same story in a bunch
I
of
was gonna say,
probably.
I'm
No, this starts
I'm
with a
getting Giver
P. I can't
vibes.
remember. There was, like, a bunch of them. There was, like, 3, and it was the girl there was a girl that was the main character, and, like
And
and
she's not like the other girls, I assume?
she's not like the other girl. She never
They
is.
never are! They
And you're like,
never
"Is that
are.
Hunger Games?" No, it's but kinda, you know? It's almost like they're trying to tell us something.
I
So I think
want.
inherently our country is built on stuff that's very uncomfortable. We don't like to
Yeah.
be uncomfortable, and we're also inherently, a very individualistic society where we just
Mhm.
want what we
Right.
want, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to get that. And, in this case, there was some reckoning that happened
Yeah.
result.
So, just as a kind of a wrap up to wrap up Poltergeist in this theme, help any listener kind of maybe navigate this question. At what point does the American dream become so irrevocably haunted
Mm.
by its own hidden costs that we have to abandon it entirely, like the Freelings do at the end of Poltergeist? They make they make a choice at the end of like it is not worth it to stay here. We need to abandon this and start over. And they go to the hotel. And I do love that Craig T. Nelson wheels the TV out of the.
Funny.
It's
There's some
fantastic.
funny moments in that movie that like, there's these ghost hunters that come that makes you think it's haunted and the coffee pot just, like,
Yeah,
shoots
like
across the
that's happening
it just
actually.
shoots across the table, and they're like, that's
Or the
wonderful."
one guy was like, I once slowly filmed a Matchbox
That was
car
the
being
best part.
ridden across it took like 4 days, and they're like,
Yep.
yeah, let me just show you what's behind this door. And then there's
Right.
like literally like a tornado of stuff going on around the room. Like, when is maybe a good follow up to like, when do we abandon that? When do we know it's gone too far? We've crossed the Rubicon and we can't go back anymore.
Well, I think you see it in the end. It's the one thing I will give Craig T. Nelson in this movie, there's only one, is that he's building this pool.
Yeah.
Of course, to have a pool is very much a part of the American dream, apparently, and he but they discover that the bodies are there because he builds this pool. I mean, if he hasn't done that, you wouldn't get this super traumatic scene where the mom is swimming with the dead bodies while
An insanely cool scene, by the way.
he's at the office for
Let me stack these papers up.
he has to take care of things.
His
You
wife
know, like
fighting zombies in their backyard.
she's got both the kids and a golden retriever on her back, and she's just like, "Cool, cool, cool. Glad you got that paperwork sorted."
Oh man.
But yeah, so I think at what yeah, I mean, he's trying to build this American dream, and everything's falling apart around him. And
Yeah.
it's I really do think this is a really interesting question is if none of that had happened, if the hauntings haven't happened, would he have just kept on? Even if they had revealed, like his boss had revealed that those bodies were underneath this neighborhood, would he have just because he seems pretty complacent with the fact they're gonna do it
It's
again.
like, ah, well, yeah, yeah. Like there's waffling, but then he does resolve to like, I guess it's fine.
I
Like
guess it's fine. It's like,
because
dude, you and this is in the middle of the haunting. He says, "I guess it's fine."
yeah,
And in the
and
which is wild to me.
And it's still like it's that thing we talked about just a little bit ago of like his cost is still low. The cost to him personally is still low. And yes, he's waffling, and there's that hope to get Carol Ann back. Like it hasn't cost him a child yet.
Yet
Like it hasn't, and
his daughter is missing. His
she is
daughter's in
stuck
a
inside a
TV.
TV.
She's stuck inside of a TV ish at this stage, and it's like
Yeah.
he's still being like, "That's cool."
So
So, like, when do you give it up? I
yeah,
mean, I think this is why it's so frustrating when so the to fast forward to the end of the movie is that they get Carol Ann back, all the family's back together, and for some reason Nelson has to go to the office for reasons as we spoke about. And he leaves in there, and she even tells her teenage daughter, she's like, "Hey, teenage daughter, like, we're going to a motel because your dad doesn't want to sleep here." Right? And then the teenage daughter makes a funny quip. "Oh, I know
she's
that
like, oh, I
hotel.
know that one.
I know that one."
Wait, what?
Which,
Hold
and
on.
you're like, "I didn't get that when I was doing the bunny ears." But so she knows, like the mom knows that this is the thing and we're leaving
Yeah,
and whatever, whatever.
yeah.
But they stay there. And that to me is just this thing of like, he doesn't show up to tell them to go. The moving van's gone. Most of their stuff is gone. Like, why are you in a bathtub?
Right,
Why are you
right.
still so they're still holding on to this. I think it's that clinging to the American dream is it's just like you're still there and you've no
It
logical reason to be there.
I know I should leave, but
She
I'm not
says it.
leaving.
She
But I'm
says it
not
to the
leaving yet.
daughter.
Yeah, like it's seriously, it's because I'm reaching that middle aged dad part of my life where I just love history so much, and there are you do not need to be a history professor to be given reasons why the American dream is kind of built on a facade. Like you don't have to dig that hard. If you continue to dig harder and harder, you are not ready to give it up.
But
It,
I think in a way it shows how, like, I think we're brainwashed. I literally think that we are brainwashed in the US that we have to have all of this stuff. Like, I was raised to we get the you get the apartment, you get the house, you get the 2.5 kids, they have a golden retriever for fuck's sake. Like, come on.
yeah,
Like, what kind
Ebas.
right? They have the cars and the job and the future, and it's just like they're not willing. Cause why Brian, the kid has been in the TV. She went
Days.
to the butthole of hell to get the kid back. Why? Why? What thing after all of that would
Yeah.
mean that you would leave your family in the house to go to work?
Yeah, it's it raises the question in me, and I wanna kinda wrap up around this thought, and I really wanna, well, if you have anything else, like, towards the end, I welcome it. There's this idea that she goes through so much to get her child back. The family exhausts all the efforts and energy and stress they can. They are consulting paranormal psychologists, and and the doctor, Dr. Lesh, who was one of my favorite characters in the whole movie, she says like, this is new for me, like I don't even know where we're at anymore. She says my favorite line in the movie was weirdly not a popular one, I guess, was she says, "I feel like the proto man going out of the woods and throwing a rock at the moon and not being able to equate it. They are in the deep end of this, and when they've come through all of these trials, we know later on in the movie, it's not done yet, but they go through all these trials, they can leave.
They
They
can leave,
see
and
the dangers
they don't.
and they stay, and they choose to stay. Whether it's comfort, whether it's holding on to that last bit of hope that it's not really as bad as we think it is, or maybe we can like patchwork
Or it's
this.
fixed. We
Yeah,
fixed it.
yeah, we fixed it when the psychic says like this house is clean. I never realized that line is not at the end of the movie. So when she says that, I look at the timestamp of the movie. I was like, "There's 25 minutes of movie left,
And it ain't clean
and it ain't clean."
because we think we can do this. We think we can whitewash it. We think we can make it disappear, make it better, and quote unquote for us so that we can live this life that we have been told is the life that we should go for. I should say white middle class people. Um,
when really it's rotten to the core.
and
Like,
it's rotten to the core. And what do? You know my frustration as a person who's very much borders on OCD is I kept seeing in the house that there was all this like he left his Darth Vader helmet behind the bed. Her that clown, don't get me started.
oh yeah,
Clown,
I don't have time for that clown.
the clown is there. But I'm like, why is that? There were games, there were board games. Why is that not packed? Like, y'all were supposed to leave tonight. And I know that's like a very like professor thing, but I
But
actually think it maybe was on purpose. Like, I
yeah.
mean, if I'm thinking about who's directing this and who has hands in directing it, I think all of those things are on purpose. Why is she dyeing her look, why is
Oh,
she dyeing her hair when her kids have just been abducted?
right. It's like it's these feelings of the sentiments of normalcy, and
Right.
they know like we gotta go, we gotta get
They
out of
should
here.
25
No,
minutes this film they spend in a place that they already escaped from.
yeah, it's like escaping prison and then going back for
They're
rec
like, "I
time.
wanna go back. I'm gonna hang
Yeah,
out. You know what?
yeah,
I'm just gonna hang
that's
out for
awesome.
another night."
It's like if at the end of Shawshank Redemption, Andy Dufresne's like, I just climbed through a mile of shit to get out of here, and now it's like, yeah, but I really miss the library.
But I think that's in summary is kind of what you're talking about, is I think that's the pull of the American dream is she's like, there's pieces of them left there. They don't wanna leave, and even the teenage daughter, I think, makes a really important comment. When she's leaving to go out on her whatever she's doing, she says, "Everything is packed up except the bed." And I was
Mm.
like, "Okay, that could just be like a technical thing, whatever." But I think it's actually kinda telling is like the beds are why are the beds still there?
Yeah.
They're supposed to leave.
Yeah, you weren't prepared. Like you said, you were leaving tonight. You were prepared to stay longer. Your words said we are leaving. Your actions said we will stay as long as we can.
And I think to me that's not it's not the ability to they can't let go
Yeah,
despite everything that's happened. And I think we see that in our society right now, which is that people don't want to face history. They don't want to acknowledge that all of this is built on the backs of other people and we just can't let go. And I think we're heading towards not like an apocalyptic reckoning, but I think we're seeing it in the day to day that reckoning is happening.
well, everybody, we know this has probably been an uplifting chat for you to listen to, but really, do this is one of those thought provoking things. The answer is not so simple.
Well, and it's
But
also being reflective about how you consume things and how you
yeah,
view that American dream, which is saying, I used to tell my youth group when I was a youth group leader, I would say, one day high school won't matter anymore. And I remember they'd give me blank stares. I
talking
realized,
about lady.
well, and they didn't and I realized you can't say that to people. You
Yeah,
can't say high school because high school is all that they've got. So I think, what it does is that with this, you can say, "Oh, well, the American dream, is not that great of a thing, and it's very corrupt and blah blah blah." But you have to reflect on it, because we're in
yeah,
the middle of it. I mean, Stuart and
yeah.
we don't procreate, but we certainly have done a lot of the American dream formula. So
What a great way to end. We don't
it,
procreate,
we have
so
cats.
everyone's
Don't worry,
clear.
the cats are fine.
Uh, Leah, thanks for digging into Poltergeist. I've got links in the episode description here for Theology on the Rocks, your fantastic podcast with our
Thank
friend
you.
Christy Whaley, and people can check that out. Thank you for digging into Poltergeist, and we got many, many more of these.
So if you watch it, I'm sorry ahead of time because you're going to be mad the whole time.
Craig T. Nelson happened, everybody. We got to find a way to reconcile it, um, or avoid it. But just remember, the horrors may persist. We will try to do so as well.